99% of pianists make one of these mistakes when they learn how to swing. Some make all three. In this video, I'm going to show you what these three mistakes are and what you need to do to correct them. Last year through this channel, I met this lady, Sarah, who was a great piano player. She had studied piano most of her life. She grew up as a kid listening to jazz with her dad, especially the music of Bill Evans, who was her dad's favorite. And she ended up buying this book, the Bill Evans Omnibook, because she thought of her dad whenever she saw it. A few years ago, her eyes were opened and she decided now was the time. I really want to learn how to play jazz like my dad and I used to listen to. This is when Sarah and I first got introduced. She had found me here on YouTube and then through the website had become a member and now was on these live Zoom calls with me. So one day between those workshops, I got an email from Sarah where she shared this story with me. I was so moved by her story that I really wanted to help her out. And so we jumped on a private lesson, and what I heard right away in her playing was all three of these mistakes that we're about to go through. Now, Sarah's neighborhood teacher told her that whenever you're playing jazz, 2 eighth notes become an eighth note triplet. So Sarah took this advice and worked on a bunch of tunes. And when she played My Romance for me, it sounded like this. I explained to her in our first lesson that swing feel is a feel. It's something that doesn't necessarily show up on sheet music very accurately. It's very difficult to notate. So we spent some time listening to When I Fall in Love by Bill Evans, and I had her just tap 1, 2, 3, 4 in her lap as we listened. Triplet, triplet. So that long, short rhythm was definitely there, but Bill wasn't sticking straight to the triplet. In fact, that last note, the short note of that swing feel was delayed much longer. It was laid back even further. So we spent some time just trying to play along with these tracks and to match the feel. I can't do it. I can't lay back hard enough. Some music production nerds call this the swing ratio. What is the difference between long and short? If we were thinking triplets, right, it's 2 to 1. Now, Bill Evans' swing feel in this tune is quite a bit more exaggerated than that, but it can vary so much by artist, by tune, by tempo. You have to really learn how to feel it, not think it. See, the second mistake doesn't have anything to do with that swing rhythm. It has everything to do with the articulation, or specifically where you place the accents. She told me that when she played for her neighborhood piano teacher, it kind of sounded like this. Now, Sarah's local music teacher, despite not being a jazz teacher, gave her some pretty good advice, which was to move the accents from the downbeats to the upbeats. And this is the same thing that my middle school jazz band teacher taught me, and I would say generally it's good advice, and it changes My Romance to sound like this. And it's definitely an improvement, but it's a little bit cartoonish. And so let's listen to how Bill Evans might accent this melody. So as we listen to more and more of these examples, listening for this observation, we kind of noticed that this subtle upbeat thing was just a persistent bass line that was always there, but it was far from the only place that they accented. On top of that, they accented the notes at the beginning of the phrases and the notes at the end. And if we had a phrase that was like a longer gesture that had a peak, a climax, and then came back down, you would hear some accents around the peak as well. And if we go back to like Charlie Parker with bebop, listen for where he puts the accents. Right? They're almost random. They're all over the place. Now, just like with the swing feel, these artists are articulating their lines intuitively. They're kind of speaking their own dialect of the jazz language. You can't really think your way into that. You have to experience it for yourself by listening and imitating your favorite artists. If you want something a little more academic than that, I've put a link down to my friend Jeremy Siskin's channel. There's a video on that channel specifically about this phonetic system that he developed on how to emphasize different notes in different contexts. It's absolutely brilliant. Mistake number 3 is a problem I hear all the time, and it's really simple to understand, but it's actually a little bit tricky to fix. And that mistake is that we tend to play way too choppy. And this was totally true of my friend Sarah also. When she was playing My Romance, it was a little bit like this. So Sarah and I spent some more time listening to recordings. Specifically, I wanted her to hear one that was sung. So here's a version from Ella Fitzgerald.
My romance doesn't have to have a moon in the sky.
This whole first phrase was one breath, right? Everything was smooth and connected. Now, everybody likes to joke that as piano players, we don't have to breathe, but I will tell you, if you don't breathe, you don't get to play very long. So we want to have nice, smooth legato phrases where there isn't space between the notes, but we want to have really nice, crisp, upfront articulation on each note that is in really good time. When we're playing a long note, like at the end of the phrase, we want to attack in good rhythm, but you also release the notes in good rhythm. So when you play legato with that nice crisp articulation on the front and you pay close attention to when the notes release, that's how you get that authentic swing melody. I remember the day when Sarah showed up on Zoom for a lesson with a big smile on her face because this had clicked for her. And I was so proud of her. She played beautifully. When she learned to trust her intuition and to play what she was feeling, that was when her sound really came to life. If you can relate to Sarah's story and you're not super satisfied with the way that you sound, I would really encourage you to come be a member over at Jazz Library, or you could just watch this video next, which is all about how to break through that advanced beginner stage.